Just started, okay. So you may wonder why we're starting at 2. So we are very, very lucky to have Michael Zakkour live from New York, who is the founder and CEO of 5 New Digital, a digital commerce, retail, and consumer consultancy. He's one of the world's leading retail futurists whose insight, innovations, and predictions on the future of e-commerce. Can everyone turn any?
Somebody needs to put their mute on.
Yeah. So Michael is one of the world's leading retail futurists. His insights, his innovations, and his predictions on the future of e-commerce, the new retail model, and digital commerce. Oh, I think we've got a whole class by the looks of it. Yeah, okay. Right, I'll go again. He's one of the world's leading retail futurists whose insights, his innovations, his predictions on the future of e-commerce, the new retail model, and digital commerce have shaped the narrative and reality of commerce in the 21st century. So Michael has advised hundreds of global brands, retailers, CPGs, and manufacturers on developing and capitalizing on new business opportunities through digital transformation and customer centricity. His reputation as a business and a consumer futurist has made him an in-demand consultant, a C-suite coach, a corporate strategist, and keynote speaker. And we just heard that he just is back from Dubai after a live speech to 1,000 people. He has over 20 years of experience in e-commerce and over 17 years in China and Asia Pacific. His intimate knowledge and experience of Asia has inspired his latest book, which I don't know if we can see that, but I highly recommend it. I'm on my second time through it at least, and it's called New Retail, Born in China, Going Global. In fact, that's his second best-selling book. He'll feature many of those things and sharing insights from that book with us today. He's also a contributor at CNBC, at CNN, Fox Business, and Forbes. He's a lecturer at NYU, Columbia, Wharton, Yale, the China Youth Institute, and the Confucius Institute. So we are so excited to have you here today, Michael, to join us. And we know you're an extremely busy man. So I am going to leave this I'm going to give the stage to you from here on. Looking forward to hear some more.
Thank you, Paul, and good afternoon, everyone in the UK, and good morning from New York. Paul, thank you for the kind introduction, especially that last part, all these wonderful universities I lecture at. I take particular satisfaction in that because those are all the schools I wasn't smart enough to get into when I was applying to them way back in the day. So a little bit of satisfaction there. So yeah, just a quick introduction. 5 New Digital is the core consulting firm that I run. Essentially, what we do is we work with brands, retailers, and CPGs from all over the world on their e-commerce, digital commerce. And by the way, we'll differentiate. There is a difference between e-commerce and digital commerce, their new retail model, and their unified commerce strategies. I've also, over the years, built what we call the 5 New Digital ecosystem. You'll see this circle of companies and names around 5 New Digital. And these companies allow us to take any brand, any CPG, any retailer in the world, all the way through from research, strategy, to actual structure building, execution, implementation. So we have a software company based out of Paris called Proximus. We have a social media agency out of Hong Kong called Alaris. We have a China APAC strategy firm called China Brightstar. We have a dedicated CPG practice called CPG Guys. And then between eMate and DaVinci, we handle all things supply chain and micro fulfillment. These are some of the clients we currently serve. This is a current client list. You can see it's a pretty broad array of companies from the ultra luxury to consumer packaged goods. Really proud to be working, just started, I guess, last month with Coke, Supreme, and Saks Fifth Avenue. but this is a good example of the type of client we work for. So enough about me and us. Let's talk about what's happening out there. There are three key ideas that every brand, every retailer, every CPG, every technology company needs to understand. The way things have shaken out over the last 5 years is the world can now be divided into three key things. Digital commerce, and when we talk about digital commerce, what we mean is the application of technology, digital tools, and data science across an entire organization. So e-commerce is one part of the digital commerce equation. E-commerce is a number of habitats in which a consumer can engage a brand for information, for purchase, for fulfillment. But the larger picture and the companies who are really ruling the day today have applied digital commerce principles. So in product development, manufacturing, supply chain, sales, marketing, reverse logistics, it's all connected digitally. That's number one. Number two is what we call the new retail. Some of you may be familiar with the term. It was actually coined by former CEO of Alibaba, Jack Ma, about 6 years ago. And he made it his stated interest to completely change the retail model, to completely change the idea that retail is simply the act of somebody walking into a store or going onto a website and buying something. And the model that he set out, and that is now at the full maturity level in some places, is the complete integration, emphasis on the word complete, integration of online, offline, technology, supply chain, and media. That these put together create a new retail ecosystem. And this is going to be the key focus of our talk today. So we're going to go into much more detail about what that is. And the third key idea is what we call unified commerce. Most people are familiar with the term omni-channel. Personally, I eliminated the term omni-channel from my lexicon about 3 years ago. From our view in my shop, when we look at omni-channel, we ask our clients or potential clients, do you have an omni-channel strategy? And they say yes. And then I follow that question up with, what's the difference between your omni-channel strategy and your multi-channel strategy, right? We've had multi-channel for 30 years. I usually get a lot of blank looks, a lot of ums, a lot of ahs, and that right there tells the story, right? Okay, so omni-channel is just another way of saying we recognize we have multiple channels that we can reach the consumer through, and then it kind of ends there. What unified commerce does, it takes all of your consumer-facing habitats, be they digital or physical, and actually connects them digitally, and actually connects them as one single presentation to the consumer. The idea in unified commerce is what we call 20-50-20. We want to allow the consumer 20 ways into our universe, 50 things to experience while they're in there with us, and 20 ways for them to exit and for us to make them a lifetime value consumer. So unified commerce is the evolutionary apex of what people today call omni-channel. And it's that connection that's key. So digital commerce, new retail, unified commerce. These are the big three of success in today's digital commerce world. So what does that look like? Let's just jump right in. I'm going to ask you guys to take a trip with me. I'm sure you weren't expecting it, but we are all going to get on a virtual plane this morning, and we're going to Shanghai. So we land in Shanghai, China, and we go to the local mall. We'll say for now it's Plaza 66, the luxury mall. And we're going in search of Alibaba's Fresh Hippo stores. If I could see all of you live now, I would ask you, how many of you have heard of Fresh Hippo? Raise your hands. Paul, you don't count. You don't count, Paul. Okay. Jane, too. Okay. So Fresh Hippo was introduced about 5 years ago by Alibaba. Essentially, what it was presented to the world as was the most modern grocery store in the world. And upon first glance, that's exactly what it looks like. So we go down to the lower level of the mall where these are usually located. By the way, malls in China, I don't know if anybody's been to one, but generally speaking, the top floor of the mall is where you have high level restaurants and fine dining. You have the shopping in the middle levels, and then the bottom level is grocery stores, service companies, and quick snacks. Okay. So we go down to the basement and we find this place called Fresh Hippo, and we walk through the door together. And the first thing we're going to see, if you can read Chinese, which I can, is please remember no cash allowed here, and all shopping must be done through the app. Okay, so you have a Fresh Hippo shopping app. So right away, what do we notice? They've immediately integrated the online and the offline with the technology from the moment you walk in the store. Okay. Then we notice all the products on the shelves have a QR code on them. And so shopping through the app, we scan the QR code on each product and it goes into our virtual basket. Okay, so everything's got a QR code. You can choose to actually pick the product up and put it in your basket or keep it in your virtual basket through the QR code. Then we look over to our left and we see what we look like, to me, an aquarium, right? Oh, wow, this store has an aquarium. Is this an added entertainment attraction? No, it turns out they have 200 tanks full of every kind of seafood you could ever hope for. If it swims, if it crawls, if it lives in the water, ocean, rivers, it doesn't matter. They've got a tank for it. So I want to go over to the Alaskan king crabs because those happen to be my favorite seafood. And I walk over to the tank, and lo and behold, the crabs have QR codes. And so I take my phone and I scan the QR code for the Alaskan king crab, and immediately on my screen, it says, this Alaskan king crab was caught 49 hours ago, 200 miles off the western coast of Alaska. Here is the boat that caught it. Here's the trip it took to the dock. Here's how it was packaged. Here's the plane ride it took to China. And here's the trip it took to this store. 49 hours from the Bering Sea to a tank at a Fresh Hippo in China. I swipe left, and it says, if you love king crab, here are some of the side dishes we think would go well. Do you want some razor clams, some prawns, some eggplant, and some snap peas to go with it? Now, at that point, I don't even need to go to the QR code. I don't need to go to the other section. I can tap the QR code for their recommendations, and it automatically goes in my basket. I swipe left again, and it gives me a number of recipes for how to cook king crab. I swipe left again, and it tells me here are the wine and beer pairings that go very well with this meal. Okay. And if I decide now I'm finished, I have a few choices. I can tell them I'd like it waiting at the door for me when I'm done here. Why? Because I can walk around now. Why? This store has entertainment. It has videos. It has people walking around with whiskey carts, people walking around with wine carts, people walking around with beer carts. There are videos, there are games, there's gamification in the whole store. So maybe I want to spend some time in the store and have my bag waiting for me at the end. Or the second choice is we can deliver this to you any time of the day you want. We can have it to your house in 30 seconds, 30 seconds, sorry, they're not that good yet. Who knows though, we might be getting there in 30 minutes or 2 hours or 4 hours. Or do you want to set it for another day? Maybe I'm having a dinner party on Friday and I can tell them I want all of this delivered to my house at 3 p.m. so I can start cooking. And the final choice is my favorite. We'll pick all of this up right now and please sit down in our restaurant and we'll have it on the table for you in 20 minutes. So I can actually eat in the store. Now, you talk about a sticky experience, right? They're giving you every reason to stay if you want to stay or go if you want to go. Okay, so I decide I want to go. Oh, I forgot. I wanted that white wine to go with it. So I click on the white wine and they say, we're sorry, we don't have the white wine in the store. But with one click, you can go to Tmall Global, right? The website, e-commerce, and add it to your cart. I do that. And I tell them, I'd like this at my house at 5 p.m. So I leave the store and I go shopping. By the way, When I do go shopping, I go next door to the in-time department store. Okay. So I want to buy some clothes. I want to buy some toys. Why is that important? Because Alibaba also owns the in-time department store. Okay. What happens after I leave the in-time department store is this guy here on the scooter. He's waiting in the staging area underneath the store. And what happens is a conveyor belt system with bags moves around the store, and all of your items get automatically dropped into the bag. Then the bag goes down through the bottom of the floor into the staging area where they give it to the delivery driver. He knows that they didn't have the white wine in the store, so he makes a stop here. This is the 1919 Wine and Spirit Shop, also owned by Alibaba. So he stops there, he puts the wine in the order, he takes it home, and I'm ready. Whoops. I'm ready for a dinner with my family. Now think about everything that just happened there, right? The physical store was connected to Tmall Global, integration of online and offline. It was app-based cashless shopping technology. Every single one of these stores is considered a forward operating base for logistics. That means they draw a 5-kilometer circle around every Fresh Hippo store, and they guarantee 30 minutes delivery or appointment delivery. Oh, and by the way, we own the in-time department store, we own the wine shop, and all of a sudden, what this is, it's not a grocery store. It is literally the ultimate example of what the new retail is. The integration of online, offline, technology, logistics, and entertainment. That's new retail come to life. This is the model that Alibaba built and perfected in China. It's the one that JD and Tencent and some of the other big players in China have replicated. And it's the model that most of our Western retailers have looked at and finally said, this is what we want to be. We're not just a destination. We're not just a website. We're not just a store. We have the opportunity to be an ecosystem of products and services. That is the new retail writ large. So how did this happen in China, right? I first went to China in 2002, and I can assure you it was a very different place in 2002. I was there early enough where most major Chinese thoroughfares, it was still 70% bicycles and 30% cars, right? So if we go back a little bit further, even 30 years ago, 90% of China was still rural and agrarian, right? It was a rural farming country 30 years ago. Also about 35 years ago, women in China, if they wanted makeup, cosmetics, they couldn't get it. Well, under Mao, Western cosmetics were banned because they were deemed to be hedonistic, capitalistic, decadent accoutrements that were anti-revolutionary. Boy, that's a lot to say about some lipstick, right? And if you, even under Deng Xiaoping, when opening up and reform came in the early 80s, you were allowed to have makeup, you just couldn't buy any, right? We're going back to like 1985, you couldn't find makeup. And a lot of Chinese women, what they would do is they would take sandpaper and they would rub it on their cheeks and rub it on their lips to give the appearance of wearing rouge or lipstick, right? So what we're talking about is in 30 years, China went from farming to Fendi, and they went from sandpaper to Sephora. The largest Sephora flagship store in the world is in Shanghai, right? Think about that. 40,000 SKUs of different kinds of cosmetics and care, body care in one store. That's a long way to go in 35 years. This picture is what the Shanghai skyline looked like in 1987 and 2013. I think that also gives you a sense of how fast things have developed. The skyline looks even more impressive today, but this is the most dramatic change, representative picture I could find. And if you think about, this is a good analogy for how China has developed as an economy, from insignificant to #2 in the world in 35 years. It's a good analogy for China's technology and innovation culture. And it's just a great analogy for how much they've changed. Now, what the key to all of this is, China was able to create the most modern retail, consumer, technology, e-commerce system in the world, not because of what they had. It was quite the opposite. It's all the things they didn't have. They didn't have a legacy banking system, which meant it was a clean slate for digital payments. They didn't have modern retail infrastructure, so it was a clean slate for e-commerce. They didn't have personal communication devices, so it was a clean slate for the smartphone. So we could go down the list, and the key was China did not have legacy systems that needed to be erased and rebuilt. Everything was a clean slate. And what propelled China into the #1 spot in digital commerce was the confluence of the smartphone, e-commerce, and digital payments. 10 years ago, people would still show up at the car dealership with a duffel bag of cash to buy a car. All right. They weren't carrying credit cards. They weren't investing in capital markets, and it was a cash-based society. So it's very important to understand that it was what they didn't have that allowed them to have this fresh slate. So if we fast forward to last November, some of you may have heard the term Singles Day. Singles Day is the largest shopping event on earth. It was started by Alibaba in 2000. Well, I should say it was commercialized by Alibaba in 2009. The original Singles Day was born, as so many interesting things are, in a college dorm room. During Valentine's Day, a bunch of lonely guys said, hey, we don't have any dates. We don't have anybody to give presents to. How about we invent our own holiday and we'll call it Singles Day? And they picked the date November 11th because that's 1111, 111. So the symbolism of the single ones. And it spread throughout the campus, and then it spread through other campuses. And then it became sort of a national joke holiday. And in 2009, Alibaba said, wow, we see a commercial opportunity here. And they approached some of the merchants who were selling on Taobao, and they said, how about you guys run a 50% off sale just for one day as a promotion? There were 27 who said yes. So the original Singles Day was 27. Last year, 258,000 merchants participated in Alibaba's Singles Day, and it's now the largest shopping event on earth. So why this picture? So I don't know if any of you have seen the movie The Social Network, which documents how Mark Zuckerberg invented Facebook, again, in the dorm room. And this scene is in the movie, he goes out to California for the first time, and he meets with Sean Parker. Sean Parker was the guy who invented Napster, which, by the way, fundamentally destroyed the music industry as we know it. The first streaming music service. Sean made a lot of money, and he's looking to invest. And Zuckerberg's listening to his pitch, and Mark tells him, listen, a guy offered me $1 million to buy Facebook. And Sean says to him, $1 million isn't cool. You know what's cool? $1 billion. Okay. We fast forward to 2020, and Jeff Bezos is very, very proud of the fact that he sold $10 billion worth of merchandise on Amazon Prime Day last year, right? That's pretty impressive, $10 billion worth of merchandise. But Jack Ma said, you know what? $10 billion isn't cool. You know what's cool? $74 billion. That is what Alibaba sold in one day on Singles Day last year. And it is the Chinese new retail system that allowed that to happen. To give you a sense of how advanced they are, at peak, Alibaba was processing 250,000 orders per second, not per minute, not per hour, 250,000 orders per second. You need a pretty robust tech stack and cloud computing system to do that. They shipped 1.1 billion parcels in the 3 days after Singles Day. You need a pretty advanced logistics system to do that. I was sitting with the CMO of Alibaba while all of this was going on, and we were having lunch, and in the middle of the conversation, he just put his hand up and said, just for a second. And he looks at his watch, and 30 seconds goes by, and then it starts beeping. And I said, what's going on here? He said, our data scientists told us we would surpass last year's total sales somewhere between 2 minutes to 1 and 1:02 today. And at 1 o'clock, his alarm rang and they surpassed last year's sales inside of that 4-minute predictive window. So this is the power of new retail. It's enabled by technology on one side and logistics and supply chain on the other, and by connecting all of your consumer-facing digital and physical habitats. That's how you move $74 billion worth of goods in one day. So where did it come from? There are 5 news of digital commerce, thus the name of my company, 5 New Digital. The first is the new retail, which we've been talking about. The second is new consumption. So all of the things you thought you knew about consumer journeys, most of them you can throw in the garbage today, okay? It was such a simpler time. It really was 20 years ago. Stores aggregated products on behalf of the brands. The media landscape was print, radio, and TV, nascent digital advertising. But there's one new demand that all consumers have globally today, which is spoil me or else. Spoil me or else I will find the brand, the retailer, the ecosystem that will. New technology. Listen, my job is to think about new technology every single day, and I can't keep up. I get about 4 new acronyms in my email every day that I have to Google and look up and figure out. I'm like, I don't know what these people are talking about, and that's my job. New supply chain, new finance, everything from fintech, digital payments, crypto, NFTs. And we have a bonus one that I've added in last year, and this is maybe the most important one. The lines between who is a retailer, wholesaler, media company, marketplace, or a technology company used to be pretty thick and stark. Today, the biggest, most successful companies in the world are all of these, or at least some of them. The idea that you can be just a retailer or just a marketplace, it doesn't work anymore. So how does that play out in real life? If you look at Walmart and their evolution, Walmart says, when I grow up, I want to be Alibaba and I want to be Amazon, which is why they added a marketplace. So now you can shop on Walmart.com or the Walmart marketplace, right? Walmart has its own media company. Walmart just added their own last mile delivery. Wow, that sounds a lot like a new retail ecosystem, right? Because that's exactly where they're going. Simplified map of what a new retail ecosystem. Our sun in the center, we put new retail there. That could and should be interchangeable with the term consumer centricity. The whole idea of this ecosystem is that everything you do is about the consumer, okay? And new retail ultimately has 4 power sources that make it work. Everything commerce related, everything digital and IT related, everything logistics and supply chain related, and everything media and entertainment. So there are about 15 or 16 companies globally now who are already all the way there on this model or very, very close to being there. So we look at Rakuten in Japan, Mercado Libre in South America, Amazon, Walmart, Target in the US. Certainly in Europe, Tesco and Carrefour have made numerous attempts to build this model. I think both companies still have a long way to go. I look at a company in Germany called Otto, which is probably a little more advanced than both of those. And the key here is if we look there, probably 40 or 50 major e-commerce marketplaces globally today. About half of them are working on becoming this kind of ecosystem, and the other half are at least in the planning stage to become these ecosystems. So this is what new retail looks like behind the scenes. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about, excuse me a second. Inside of these ecosystems, what are some of the new tools and technologies, ideas that are powering new retail in China and going global? So Paul was kind enough to mention my book at the top of the program. In that book, which by the way, came out in July of 19, so a little more than 2 years ago, there were a number of things that I predicted would come to pass in the rest of the world that were already mature in China, and that would change the face of retail and consumption in the West. The first one that I talked about in the book was QR codes. So QR codes are ubiquitous in China, and they have been for a long time. There is not a surface in China that doesn't have a QR code on it. So we talked about, every product in the Fresh Hippo store has a QR code on it. Every bus stop has a QR code on it. Every restaurant has a QR code on it. Every advertisement on TV or every advertisement in a magazine has a QR code on it. It's really the glue of Chinese commerce. And the QR code is really a miraculous little piece of technology. Because by simply scanning it on your smartphone, it opens up the world of any kind of content that you want to present to your consumer. So it can be used for direct purchase, without leaving it. It can direct you to a third-party site for purchase. It's the ultimate CRM tool. It's a marketing tool. It's used for loyalty clubs, rich content, video, you name it. There's virtually nothing you can't do with this. So in this little example I have here on the bottom left, about 6 months ago, I adopted a puppy, a little baby Cocker Spaniel. And I went to PetSmart to start buying all the gear. And one of the crates had a QR code on it, and I scanned it. And it immediately took me to just an amazing array of rich content. It showed me how to set it up. It showed me what else they were selling. It showed me their catalog. It took me to dog training videos on YouTube. It gave me a discount code. All right, another example of a QR code. A few months ago, I picked up a copy of Vogue magazine, and there was a Christian Dior full-page glossy ad in it. And at first, it looked like any other glossy Dior ad, except the ad had a QR code on it. Okay, so I scan the QR code on that ad, and it immediately takes me to all the details about the dress I'm seeing, all the details about the model, all the details about everything else she was wearing. Where did they do the photo shoot? It took me to the entire catalog of that season's Dior line. It took me to fashion runway videos, and it took me directly to their website for purchase. Now think about the value difference between the ad and the ad that had the QR code, right? Just the act of me scanning it means that Dior has rich data information about who I am and the fact that I came and bothered to scan them, okay? So QR codes, when I wrote about it 2 years ago, the general reaction from those in the know in the industry said, QR codes will never work in the West. It's a Chinese only thing. Nobody's going to scan those things, and it's useless. Well, in the US, in 18 months, we've gone from non-use to near maturity of QR code use. So you'll start seeing them everywhere in the West. Okay. The second major feature that was born in China and is going global is live streaming. So essentially, live streaming is you set up a camera, you put a person in front of the camera, they take a number of products, they talk about those products. Usually the person in front of the camera is an influencer or a KOL, we call a key opinion leader. Also could be a celebrity. But what's different is it's not an ad or an endorsement, it's an actual selling experience. So while the video is going on, all you need is one click on your phone and you can immediately buy what the person is talking about, okay? That was a $250 billion industry in China in 2020. $250 billion of products sold on the live stream. So again, this is not redirecting the consumer to a third-party site to buy. The buy is happening in the live stream. Okay, so this is a fully mature tool in China, and it's starting to go west. So if you're a Western brand or retailer, startup, doesn't matter. Right now, you have 3 places that you can do live streaming. The big tech platforms are all setting up live streaming services. So you have Amazon Live, you have Google ready to pull the trigger on shopping on YouTube. Twitch, the video game streaming, is going to start doing it. So you have the big tech platforms. Then you also have startup aggregators, where you have companies who were founded specifically to set up channels where you can live stream, and they might have 100 to 200 live streamers a day on, and then also you can do live streaming live on your site. The other tool that's mature in China and going global is social commerce. In the West, we tend to think about social media, but not social commerce. And the difference is social commerce is about allowing the consumer to buy while they are in the social commerce app. Okay, so you're just starting to see here in the US Instagram shopping, right? And then the big announcement also, I don't know if you guys heard, it came out 2 days ago, but TikTok has partnered with Shopify to allow shopping while you're in TikTok. So again, something we predicted 4 years ago and wrote about 2 years ago. Now you're starting to see it happen here as well. So that's a great example of new retail born in China going global. So what does this look like on the ground? A good example is some work we did with a Korean cosmetics company a few years ago called Innisfree. They were really suffering. Their sales were down 45% in store. Their foot traffic was down 65%. They lost about half of their web traffic. And we came in and set up a completely original new retail program for them. We shrunk their store size. We shrunk their inventory. We made the store the media. We made the store experiential. We put things like the skin scanner in where the woman could scan her skin, and if you're too dry, too oily, and here's the products you need to fix it, right? And then with one click, they buy it and they can have it delivered to their house the next day. Another cool thing we did was we gamified the sample system. So, cosmetic samples have been part of the cosmetic sales process from time immemorial. The problem is you give a customer a sample, they walk away with it. You have no idea what that means afterwards. Did they ever come back? Did they buy the full size? Did they engage the brand? Did they throw it in the garbage? So what we did was we put the samples inside of a box. And if you remember, like amusement parks, the claw machine, you press the button, you got to go down, you get to pick something up, and if you get it, you get your prize. Well, we made that a guaranteed pickup every time. But in order to use the claw machine, the consumer had to scan the QR code on the machine. Boom, instant CRM connection. We know who they are, we know which sample they took, and we know how to follow up with them about that. Okay. After 11 months of relaunching under the new retail model, store sales were up 85% and online sales were up 160%. That speaks to the power of the integration of online, offline, and technology. Another thing is the metaverse. This is a term you guys may have just started to hear about. This is where we're really looking to the future. in a timely fashion today, the news came out that Alibaba just filed a series of copyright requests on the metaverse. You may also have heard a few weeks ago, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg said, in the future, we're going to be a metaverse company, not a social media company. So essentially, the metaverse is going to be a 3D rendered world that we can all live and work in. It's going to be augmented reality, virtual reality, 3D, and essentially it's going to be a rendering of the real world in a 3D visual format. So this is going to be really, really important to the retail and brand world. We're already seeing like Sotheby's has set up a metaverse gallery. Gucci and LVMH already set up their own metaverse worlds, and really something to keep an eye on for the future. So within that, I think some things that everybody should be thinking about is in this new retail digital commerce world, you have to think about your opportunities for engagement on 3 levels. The first is with ecosystems. So a lot of these big companies that I talked about, Alibaba, Amazon, Coupang in Korea, Walmart, Target, eventually I think Carrefour and Tesco are building up these ecosystems that are based on the new retail map I showed you. The next place you're going to look to be engaging and looking for consumers is on platforms. So very soon, YouTube will be a shopping channel, Netflix will be a shopping channel, and Twitch will be a shopping channel. And then, of course, habitats are the individual spaces, whether digital or physical, where you have a chance to engage consumers. So if you're a brand or a retailer and you're not already, I would encourage you to start thinking about what is our strategy for ecosystems, what is our strategy for platforms, and what is our strategy for individual habitats. Okay, so what's coming next? The rebirth of physical retail. One of the most interesting things about the emergence of the new retail model was it's the new retail model. It's not the e-commerce model, okay? Even with everything that's happened after COVID, in most countries, on average, 80% of all purchases are still made in a physical store, okay? A little higher in China, where they've reached the first country to reach 50% of all sales taking place digitally. But also remember, guys, right? If we go back to the Fresh Hippo trip we took to Shanghai, Alibaba owns the In Time department store. They built the Fresh Hippo physical stores. They own the 1919 wine shop. Alibaba spent a lot of money the last 5 years building and acquiring physical retail so that they could fully integrate it with the digital. So what we're going to see is, I think we're at the tail end of the die-off of boring, irrelevant, non-technologically enhanced physical retail, and that physical retail is about to have a rebirth. Number 2, right now what you're seeing is that you have your in-store tech, and then you have your digital habitats. What I think is going to happen over the next year or two is you're going to see a complete connection between the in-store tech and the digital habitats. So that example I gave you from Innisfree, where the woman scans her skin and then on the same screen can buy something from the website, that's a bit of what I'm talking about. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. The coming retail media revolution. Wow. If you're a media buyer or an agency or in-house, your whole world has been turned upside down by 2 things right now. All the biggest ecosystem builders now have their own media companies. So you have Amazon Media, Walmart Media, Target Media. Our prediction is that in the next 2 years, roughly 185 of the largest retailers in the world will have their own media groups, which completely changes the equation about how, where, when, and why you buy media. And then the other big change just took place a couple of weeks ago, where Apple, with their iOS 14.5, has basically shut down the ability to track consumers if you're advertising on Facebook, Instagram, and all of that. So those 2 things combined mean if you're a retailer or a brand, you got to completely rethink your media buys. Digital marketing. is going to get even more complex than it is today, if you can believe that. You know, you're going to have to be looking at things like day parting, which I mean there is, I'll spend X amount for the first 2 hours of a day part with Walmart. I'll spend X amount the next 2 hours day part at Amazon. So day parting, media arbitrage, data science-based media optimization. That's what you have to be prepared for. The increase in use of AI and data science for media optimization, consumer journey optimization, and habitat optimization. All of those are really interesting. The consumer journey is so twisted and so diverse right now. We're in our clients, you know, we're using AI and data science to map what they're doing and then how to optimize it. So for example, do they start the journey on Twitter, then make their way to their website, then go look for reviews, then come back to your website? Or is it completely the reverse? You're going to need the data science to optimize that journey. From an agency point of view and in-house, marketing, advertising, and creative are shifting more in-house, which has, you know, implications that have to do with the retail media revolution. And then D2C is going physical. So all these direct-to-consumer brands that are all very famous, right? So Casper and mattresses, and Warby Parker and eyeglasses, and Harry's razors. Well, they all learned a lesson in the last 2 years, which is they're never profitable. Okay, none of those companies have ever made a profit. And number two, they can only scale so far without physical retail. That's why you're seeing Harry's razors end caps at Walmart. That's why you see Warby Parker and Allbirds filing for IPOs, because they ran out of venture money. They can't be profitable. And now they have to get some other people's money to help build out a physical infrastructure. And then, of course, the more obvious is the legacy retailers are developing their own D2C brands. And they're, you know, I work with a ton of CPG companies. Probably the number one activity we're doing with our CPG companies is giving them the playbook and the structure on how to sell direct to consumer. So essentially, this is our, you know, all apologies to Dr. Maslow. This is the 5 new digital hierarchy of needs. Most companies come at it in reverse. They think that the purple base should be at the top. How do we do e-commerce better? Actually, that's just table stakes now, right? That's your most base need, is getting that right. More importantly, is you're working your way up to digitization end to end. And so ultimately, why are we doing all this? Why is it important to pay attention to digital commerce, new retail, and unified commerce? It's simple. It's about consumer centricity. The brands, Apple, Nike, the ecosystem builders, Amazon, Alibaba, okay? What they all have in common is that they use technology and supply chain as a foundation for consumer centricity. So what you need to deliver as a new retail thinker and actor is consumer centricity, convenience, customization, and consumer contribution. These are what we call the 4 C's. So your goal is to deliver the 4 C's, and the methodology is by employing the 4 U's: unified commerce, unified marketing, unified logistics, and unified technology. So if you're a startup company, if you're a legacy retailer, if you're a big brand, if you're an SMB, what you need to think about going forward is, where do I apply goals for growth, transformation, and reinvention, right? So in growth, a baby ant grows into an adult ant, and the only difference is one's just a bigger version of the other one. There's no change. Whereas a grasshopper, their wings change and their reproductive organs change. So they've transformed. They're still largely the same, but there's been a significant transformation. And then obviously, you know, the caterpillar to the butterfly, that's a reinvention. So from being a face down crawler, muncher of leaves, to somebody who can fly the world and see it from 1,000 feet up, that's a major reinvention. And so, I encourage everybody when they're thinking about new retail and unified commerce and digital commerce, ask yourselves what part of our organization needs to grow, which part of our organization needs to transform, and which part or all of our organization needs to be reinvented. And with that, I thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Michael. That was amazing. If everyone's heads blown, join me. But I know you've got to go in literally 4 minutes. Is that right? That was
yeah. I think we started about 6 minutes late, so that just threw me off by 6 minutes. I apologize.
No. I know there was one question that one of the students sent to you that I don't know if you've got time to answer.
Yeah. I think I can address that one. I think I know it from memory from the email.
Yeah.
I think that the question essentially was, a lot of these things are, unique to the companies who built them, like Alibaba. And so, will this be a challenge for Chinese companies like Alibaba or JD and Tencent going global to be able to bring all of this into other countries, because the infrastructure that they're plugged into is much different in the rest of the world? I think that was the essence of the question. So the answer to that is, one, for the most part, Alibaba, JD, and Tencent are not interested in establishing marketplaces in other countries. No, let me rephrase that. In Western countries. If we look about a few years ago, Alibaba bought Lazada, which at that time was the largest e-commerce network ecosystem in Southeast Asia. Okay. The problems with integrating the Alibaba systems with the Lazada systems have been legion. They're 4 years after purchase, and they still haven't fully integrated all the systems. Part of the reason for that is, the banking system, the electronic payments, the logistics, those are all easily plugged into from a company into the Chinese system, but having to plug into a different system when you expand is very different. Now, where Alibaba is looking to compete on a global stage is in cross-border e-commerce. So AliExpress is their service for people from all over the world can buy directly from small merchants and factories in China. Alibaba.com, which is their global business services program. They're going global with their logistics system. They're going global, but they are nowhere near having any interest in setting up marketplaces outside of China.
Okay, well, yeah, we got our own problems here with Amazon, so yeah, they're seeing to that. I mean, I took down loads of stuff from farming to Fendi, from sandpaper to Sephora. That was brilliant on the backdrop and the reason.
That was my favourite.
Yeah. What China didn't have, and all the facts and figures were amazing. But I think one of the things that absolutely stood out for me is your spoil me or else. And that is really one of the things that I'll be taking away from this, and I know everyone out there will take their own thing, but I just wanted to thank you. As I said, I know you've got to go in about 1 minute, so
just to comment on that. So the spoil me or else, the key to the spoiling is go to the end of the program. The 4 C's are how you spoil it. So if you make it all about them, centricity. If you make it convenient, the second C, convenience, right? Customization and contribution. Allow them to contribute to who you are, what you do. Take the saying, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth seriously. Listen to your consumers more than you talk at them. The way to spoil them is by employing the 4 C's through the 4 U's. So there's a practical, you say that's what we have to do. Well, there is a way to do it, and that's how you do it.
That's fantastic. Just thank you from all of us.
Yeah,
really.
You're most welcome.
And I know that if anyone wants to get some questions to you, if anyone wants to,
So my email is right here. You can see it. My Twitter, my LinkedIn. Anybody who wants to follow up with me, if you want to talk offline, have a chat, please feel free to contact me. I have an open door policy.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Really, really fascinating.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time. And thanks for
Take
listening.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Just before everybody goes, I'm sure we'll all agree that that was truly, truly fascinating. Our next event is going to be slightly different. It's going to be a roundtable entrepreneur event. So a group of entrepreneurs, as the title would say, who are going to come and talk about how they made it. You know, the pitfalls and the successes that they've had along their journey. It'll be on 11th of November, and more details to come. So thank you very much. Does anybody, I know Michael obviously had to go, but does anybody want to ask anything or to discuss anything or to raise anything? No, we're all good. Okay, I think some of those sound bites you'll all be hearing again. I absolutely wrote down in capitals the sandpaper to Sephora one.
Yeah, that will be in our LinkedIn post the next.
It certainly will. It certainly will.
Or the story or else, definitely.
So lovely to see you all, and take care.